Bucci, you got you muted here.
How you doing? Welcome to the show, Frank. This is great.
Welcome in. You got a little case of the Mondays here to start. Let's go.
I do. Holy shnikes. Welcome in December 15th, 2025. It's Frankly Hockey, starring Frank Seravalli. I am merely John Buccigross. Happy birthday, Yanni Gord, Mario Marois, and Rick Sealing on December 15th. Yeah. 5 games in the NHL tonight, Frank. We got Panthers, Lightning. That's a good. I like the board tonight. Panthers, Lightning, Ducks, Rangers, Senators, Jets, Preds, Blues, and Kings and Stars right there. All going on tonight. We'll see. We'll speculate to accumulate later in the show to see what Frank likes on that board this evening. How about this, Frank? Before we get started, we got a great show. Craig Button stopping by to talk hockey. Obviously, we'll talk Quinn Hughes, Penguins, and their third period woes. But top 7-point percentage teams, Frank. Colorado 1, Dallas 2, Carolina 3, Vegas 4, Minnesota 5, Capital 6. How about number 7? Take a stab, Frank, at the 7th best point percentage team. Top of your head.
Philadelphia Flyers?
New York Islanders. I mean, stealth, eh?
Yeah. I mean, Matthew Schaefer has completely changed the franchise. I mean, they're doing this also without Kyle Palmieri.
Electric. And Patrick Waugh, I respect him so much as a coach, and he's early coach of the year possibility. And also, one more little Easter egg. The penalty minutes leader in the NHL, Mikko Rantanen. Who had that?
Well, I mean, you get a couple 10-minute misconducts in a row. I mean, that'll set you on your way. Yeah,
that'll set you. That's a good base. All right, let's get right to it, Frank.
Did anything happen this weekend?
Oh man, so I'm in. Where was I? Yeah, I was in St. Louis, getting ready for Blackhawks and Blues. And this happened last year, Frank. I was actually the Dallas Star game had already started. I was calling in Dallas. And that's when Mikko Rantanen was traded. So here I am getting ready 15 minutes before we're going on to do our open to talk about the game, Chicago, St. Louis. Bam. The producer in my ear says, uh-oh, Quinn Hughes traded. Everything blows up. How shocked were you?
Well, let's see. I was having one of the ultimate dad moments where Hockey Insider and just being a father kind of collide. I was in the Lincoln Tunnel crossing into Manhattan to take my daughter to see the
Lincoln Tunnel. Sounds like an Elf episode.
Yeah, well, it sounds like a bad place for cell reception is what it sounds like. And yeah, it was so it was a daddy-daughter date. My daughter's 9. I figured, hey, I'll take her to go see the Christmas Spectacular at Radio City Music Hall Friday night in December. Trades never happen in December. We scheduled this months ago. Why would something happen tonight of all nights? And yet, I mean, Bill Guerin, he mentioned over the weekend that he was in the middle of rolling meatballs for Christmas dinner when Jim Rutherford called and let him know that they had a deal. But nonetheless, a little bit surprised in the sense of how quickly this kind of all came together and happened. I know that there was certainly talk about Quinn Hughes leading up to it, but that we got to this point pre-holiday roster freeze. Like a lot of people were saying is even trading him before the deadline. Does that make sense in March? And the Canucks, they just ripped the Band-Aid right off.
Of course, Quinn Hughes went to Michigan. One reason why I'm wearing this sweater. Also, we have the latest top 16 college hockey poll coming up later in the show. But let's get right to the reaction in Minnesota. Just the volume. I was watching the game last night on ESPN Plus. The volume, because when a hockey market like Minnesota, and if it was Philly or Boston, it would have been allowed any place. But there's a couple places in the NHL where it's just a little louder because the fans get it so much. Check out this reaction in St. Paul, Minnesota, as Quinn Hughes wears the uniform for the first time.
Electric. Into his
first every time he touched the puck. And there's the goal, Frank.
So good. And look, to have this all kind of come together at a moment in time where the Wild are playing incredible hockey, now 16-3-1 in their last stretch here of 20 games. And he's added to this team at also the right moment in time for where they're building. Like, I don't know if you heard that noise on Friday night. It wasn't the electric atmosphere in Minnesota and Wild fans jacked up. That noise was actually the Minnesota Wild window to win a Stanley Cup cracking open, because they've got Kirill Kaprizov, and then they've got this collection of talent that is not even really in their prime yet, just entering their prime. Brock Faber, Matt Boldy, and you smash all those things together. Joel Eriksson Ek is on the right side of 30. Their goaltenders are really just entering the primes of their career. Jesper Wallstedt is a rookie. I mean, you take this and add in one player who's a Hart Trophy caliber defenseman that has 2 years left on his deal. I know there's been a lot of talk. Well, hey, did the Wild take a big risk? Well, listen to Quinn Hughes. I mean, he mentioned after the game for the first time in his first appearance as a Minnesota Wild member that he's open to staying. Here you go.
How open-minded, Quinn, will you be just to seeing if you could see yourself here beyond your current contract?
I mean, extremely open-minded. They got an amazing core. Just obviously we've only been here 4 hours, but getting to know some of the guys and how energetic and positive guys are. And then Minnesota being so close to Michigan and just the state of hockey and the passion here. Just seeing how the fans reacted to me as well in warm-ups. And then obviously I got a lot of time for Billy for, quote unquote, sacking up and making the deal like he did. And just, how he valued me. And, there are other teams that probably could have thrown in, certain packages like that too. But at the end of the day, they didn't want to do that, or they didn't want to trade 2 or 3 assets from their team like Billy did. And so I'll remember that, and that means a lot to me that Billy did that.
Arriving here last night,
And I think, he mentioned Billy Guerin, how he really stepped up and made this trade. He had the perfect combination, Frank. He had a player who is a lot like Quinn Hughes going to Vancouver in Zeev Buium, a similar type of breaks ankles at the blue line. And Hughes had an amazing play last night where he fed Eriksson Ek right in front of the net after breaking down the Bruins, which was even a prettier play than his goal. Eriksson Ek couldn't quite finish. But that wasn't just, I thought it was the most electric play he made all night. But Buium is a similar skill set. Obviously a huge winner, national champion, 2 World Junior gold medals, world champion as well last spring. You have Marco Rossi. They needed a center so badly. Rossi's got a chance to be a point per game, 70 to 82 point guy, ideally probably a number 2 guy. Ogren's a guy who has scored everywhere but the NHL. That's a little concerning. Maybe he has all the measurables, but maybe he just doesn't have the processing skills, the toughness, or whatever it is. Because so far, not even a point this year. That's a little troubling. But again, first-round draft pick, and then they have the first-round draft pick next year. So basically 4 number 1s, 2 that are already Rossi, who's just about fully formed, Buium, who's getting there, Ogren's at the very beginning, and then whoever they draft next year. So again, that's a package that would have been tough to replicate. And also from Guerin's standpoint, they really get Hughes for 2 seasons. If they want to use him for 2 playoffs, they can either use his cap space to go free agent hunting later, or if they decide to flip him if he doesn't take the extension this summer, I guess they could do that too, or just use him for 2 years in his prime. And I wonder, Frank, does this change the whole Hughes Corporation rock the boat plan to now maybe Jack comes to St. Paul instead of trying to get Quinn to New Jersey down the line?
Maybe. I think you could park the Hughes Corporation debate for a bit, because I don't think Quinn's going anywhere, and don't get any sense that the Devils are trying to trade either of their 2 Hughes. So look, in the end, I wonder in this, this is an NBA style blockbuster, right? It's essentially 4 first-round picks for Quinn Hughes. And
yes,
I wonder, in some respects, did the Canucks get enough? Because you're trading, the Hart Trophy caliber defenseman, and he is the superstar. You hope that Zeev Buium can become the superstar. But if I were to grade this out, the way that I think about it is the Wild got back a 50-cent piece and 3 dimes for $1. That's how I view the trade. And that's how, when you try and think about it in other terms, that's sort of how I cooked it up. Can Zeev Buium can he be a superstar level player in the NHL? I think the answer is yes. But this is still Quinn Hughes in his absolute prime. And yeah, the risk for the Wild is that he doesn't want to stay and ultimately goes to free agency, or they have to flip him and move him. But then you think about this from a Canucks perspective in the here and now, and you say, okay, well, they did as well as they possibly could, but we can now switch the conversation to the Canucks side of this, which is, hey, not only did Zeev Buium make history becoming the first Canucks defenseman in his debut with the team to collect 2 points in the first period, but beyond that, they did add insult to injury in beating the New Jersey Devils of all teams on the road in Zeev Buium's first game, the team that did not get Quinn Hughes and was one of the teams that was certainly in the conversation. But does this take the Vancouver Canucks in the here and now, if you stack up Pettersson, Rossi, assuming at some point that Philip Hedl gets healthy again, and then you stack their guys down the middle, if David Kampf is your number 4C, you're probably okay in that department. Does this make them better right now this season than they should be? Are they going to collect more points and not end up with a lottery pick than they otherwise would have? Is that problematic in terms of the timing of all of this and doing it so early in the season? Is that far-fetched to think about it through that lens?
I don't think they're as good right now, because Buium, where I think someday he could get close to Hughes, he's not now. Like, he's just not close to Quinn Hughes at this moment. Again, college player, he was the more productive college player than Quinn Hughes. He just was. And he was an electric player who a lot like reminded me of Cale Makar. They're game changers by the eye test and the production. They're game changers. And they won. He's won everywhere. But right now he's not. So I think this will help Vancouver be worse than they would have been. And then we're pretty sure they're going to trade Sherwood. Pretty sure they're going to trade Kane. I think they'll do a good job of that word that Gary Bettman doesn't like us to use. They're going to be a top 3 to 5 worst team. They're going to get a very good chance to get a top 3 pick. Okay. It looks like this draft, you're going to get a very good player in the top 3 or 4. I think that team right there, and again, they could trade Connor Garland. I think it'd be a decent sign for some people. They might have to eat a little bit, but you can't trade everybody. You got to get to the floor next year, and so we'll see. But I'm also concerned about Minnesota, Frank, down the middle. I think this puts a lot of pressure on Urhoff. You go Urhoff, Eriksson, Ek, Hartman, Sturm. Is that enough to really go against Dallas and Colorado in the opening round of the playoffs this year? And just think, Frank, now in the Central Division, we assume Colorado is going to finish first. It's not guaranteed. Dallas is right there. All it takes is one injury. But either Colorado, Dallas, or Minnesota is going home after the first round. Their season will be over in April. That's what's amazing about this Central Division, this absolute, the group of death, to steal something from the World Cup of Soccer, which they just had their draw recently. Someone's going to go home early. As a result, careers are going to change. A coach might get fired, whatever it is. But man, this division is just huge. And I just worry, though, not worry, but down the middle there, Frank, is that enough for the Wild?
Well, I think if anything, they've shown with their posture now that they're willing to push their chips in and add to this team. So is this a complete picture? No, but I think the emergence of Urhoff made it possible to trade Rossi, right?
Agree. No doubt about it. No doubt.
If Urhoff doesn't step up, then they're hanging on to Rossi because they have to. So it was kind of an incomplete player or fit as it was. I mean, just go back to the summer. He was in trade rumors. Hey, how are they going to get a contract done? The Wild don't want to go long-term. They end up working out a fair deal. And then he ends up being on the move now as a trade chip. So, I mean, Ogren wasn't really in their future plans. Rossi clearly wasn't in their future plans. They probably would have traded their 2026 first round pick anyway to improve their team. Well, that wasn't part of their plan. So now Zeev Buium is the one big piece. So is the way that I sized it up, is that unfair? A 50-cent piece and 3 dimes for $1?
Yeah, again, right now, I think it will take some time, obviously. This draft pick is going to be a very, very late first round, but they could package it for something else. Also, what I always talk about with trades is whatever you're going to pay Quinn Hughes to extend him. If you would have taken $13 million a year, 14, whatever his number was going to be this summer, okay, 8 times, or next summer, 8 times, whatever. Well, now you can use that for another player. So now this trade is also going to include who else they might sign. You don't lose anybody for nothing if you're a spend to the cap team. You lose a $10 million guy, but you're going to replace him with $10 million worth of players. And so that's also part of this is who they replace him with, possibly down whether it's the summer or whether who they keep somebody. But eventually they're going to get another piece, and that's going to be Quinn Hughes' salary, because Ogren might just be a guy. He's always going to be just a guy, bottom six, $1 or $2, $3 million guy. If they're lucky, they'd probably love for him to become a $4 million guy. Booyum at some point could become that $10 million guy. He's got 2 years to see if he can become a 60, 70 point defenseman and then garner that kind of money, which I think he probably will. And then Rossi is who he is for now. He bet on himself like Marty Necas did, and maybe he thinks he's a 9-10 guy down the road, as opposed to whatever the Wild offered ×8. He ended up taking the Bridgie type of deal. So in the end, I do believe there's one more piece for the Canucks to get.
So a couple things to point out. And that 8 years,
Okay.
I'm glad you mentioned it because it's such a big bargaining chip for the Wild. Remember that starting in September, that's when the rules change for the CBA. And any deal signed after September, you won't be able to get 8 years. The most you can get on the open market is 6.
6, right? It goes down 2 years for the guys like in his situation.
So what you're talking about is the Wild being the only team that can offer 8 years starting on July 1. And afterwards, if you say, no, I'm good, I'm going to go to free agency the following July 2027, well, the most you can get is 6 years. So what you're talking about is a $30 million swing at kind of the bare minimum in terms of real cash that's going into Quinn Hughes' pocket. And so the Wild have a great bargaining chip in the meantime is you could sign for the max here, whereas unless we trade you starting in July or after the season ends, that's not happening.
No, and but Quinn Hughes can counter with, or his camp can counter. I've already made a lot of money so far. Minnesota's a very high tax state. We're talking like 10% for a state tax. He could kind of make that up at 6 years somewhere else if it's a non-tax state. Like there's ways, I think, and he's like, with medical advances, I'm pretty sure I can play till I'm 37. If I only get 6, I'm going to get another 6-year deal or an 8-year or another 6-year deal after that. So I got 12 more years making over 10 million. I got another 130 million coming to me no matter what. I'm not gonna worry about that the Wild can give me 8 when I have to take 6 somewhere else. So for someone like him who's made money, probably will make money, I don't know if that's really going to matter. It's certainly on the surface, it does seem like a big deal. But so it's going to be very interesting because don't you think, Frank, if you're Minnesota, Bill Guerin, you offer that max deal this next summer, and if he doesn't take it, then what do you do?
Well, there's no doubt that that's going to be their push. And now we have a track record, right? You see the deal that they signed Kirill Kaprizov to, the max 8-year deal. They don't really dink around when it comes to getting stuff done. They made that massive offer to Kirill Kaprizov 8 times 15. He said, no, that's how you end up with 8 times 16. This is the first offer that he made to Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin with the Canucks was exactly what the deal ended up getting done with. No more, no less. We're coming right out of the gate with the goods. We're not going to mess around here and try and pull the wool over your eyes. We know what this guy is worth. So I'd imagine that same tactic will be their push when it comes to Quinn Hughes and what they end up trying to pay him as soon as July 1.
All right. Well, that's again, that was the big move. The Hughes and Buium, both of these things we just now have to wait for time to pass. How good can Buium be? Will Ogren be anything? Will Rossi start to get some traction now that he's getting more ice time and maybe a bigger role? And of course, what will Hughes do? How quickly he will assimilate? Any final thoughts on that, Frank?
Just one quick thing to add, because I just tweeted it right now as we're talking. Okay. The Chicago Blackhawks, Connor Bedard is going to be out until at least early January. That's the next time he's going to be reevaluated for his upper body injury. And the good news for Hawks fans is that he is not considering any surgical options at this point in time. So relatively good news, I would think. You certainly don't want to be out of the lineup for any stretch of time. The Hawks obviously are sorely missing the offense that he brings and the juice. And you wonder about what this means for his candidacy for Team Canada. But nonetheless, he will be out at least until early January. So continue on.
Ooh, my guess is that it finishes his Olympic chances personally. I think with a shoulder injury, especially if it might be a labrum thing that sometimes players wait till the offseason to fix or whatever it is. Sometimes they'll wait for shoulders and hips till the offseason. because it just ruins too much of the season. But man, I was doing that game for ESPN Plus, and man, it was all awkward. It was just taking the face off against Shen, and he just did something where he tweaked his shoulder right even before contact with Shen. So man, that stinks. What a year he was having. So much fun to watch. All right. Of course, the other big deal when we were doing the show on Friday, we woke up and saw that the Oilers and the Penguins made a move with Tristan Jarry and the Sioux Skinner. By the way, Skinner and Kulak have been activated by the Penguins, and so they're kind of set to go with them now. Where Jarry already made his Oiler debut, Frank, Hockey Night in Canada, Toronto. It was a win. At times he was swimming a bit, but for the most part, he got the job done. And so far, his Edmonton career is off to a good start. Pickard played last night and lost against Montreal.
Right. And I just look at Jarry, and it's a lot of change in a really short period of time. And obviously his connection to Edmonton, playing for the Oil Kings. I love this in their post-game celebration, because when you take a look at, all the Oilers that kind of come through to connect with Tristan Jarry after the win, and Jared's going to roll that video, you take a peek at it, and it's sort of, this is the very end of the game, Saturday night in Toronto. By the way, that McDavid goal in the first period, I don't know that I've ever seen a player blow by everyone the way that McDavid did. I mean, they couldn't even turn. Morgan Riley looked like he was standing still. So everyone comes
He's done that before
line.
To Morgan Riley.
Yep. Everyone comes through to celebrate. And look that's Curtis Lazar right there. A big hug. And of course, those two guys, Edmonton Oil Kings 2014.
Yeah.
They were WHL champs that year, big team.
Yep.
And so to see those guys reunited, some of the connections, Jarry going to a place that he's familiar with. Look, the Oilers are really confident that they're getting a guy here that had one blip in his career. It happened at a tough time. There were some off-ice personal things happening for Tristan Jarry at that moment in time. They think that the standard, the level that Jarry can play at, is really relatively consistent beyond that, and that they're getting a big upgrade in net, where kind of just felt like it was time for Stuart Skinner based on some of the peaks and valleys in his game.
And it sounds like they think he's a bit more athletic, a little more side-to-side dexterity and speed, which certainly in the playoff, when the game speeds up and you're going against high skill and you're going post-to-post and there's a one-timer coming on the other side and you got to get over there and push off and cover as much of the net as you can, then they think maybe he gives them just a little bit. Because let's face it, they've just been a little bit off, 1 game, 2 games to win the cup. So at this point, they're just looking to make incremental gains to increase the probability of possibly winning the Stanley Cup. Meanwhile, the Penguins side of things, and looking forward to talking to Craig Button, who'll join us in a second here about some of these issues, Hughes and Buium and the goaltending. The Penguins, man, before the season, Frank, I didn't think there was going to be a playoff team. They seem like to be a bottom 7-ish team for me. And boy, they're starting to play that way. Blowing leads over the weekend right after this trade was that was a tough look.
Yeah, and just the scores. I mean, the huge advantages that they had in both these games. Up 5-1 in the third period, loss in OT. And 3-0 in the third period against Utah the next day. And you're thinking, here we go again. And they lose again in OT. And you look at this calendar here, and maybe if you're looking for some kind of glass half full approach, which, again, not my style, but if that's what you're looking for, okay, you milked points in 4 out of 5 games somehow, some way, but up 5-1 in the third period against the San Jose Sharks, like, that's closeout city. You can't be dropping that game. And same thing against Utah. So is this, I guess that's the big question, is this where the Pittsburgh Penguins playoff hopes go to die, is a weekend like this one where, hey, if you're 2 points, 4 points short, whenever it's all said and done, is this where you lost it?
It doesn't take much, right? They do have games in hand on people around them, but again, 14 wins, that's the same as Ottawa and Buffalo. So, you lose another 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10, do that a couple times over 30 games, and you get buried as we get into February. And and I just hope on Tuesday when we have that Edmonton game, as they come to town, that we see, Skinner versus Jarry. Certainly Skinner's activated. I would think they would play him Tuesday, don't you think? Against his former team?
Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, first off, it should be automatic. Anytime you're playing against your former team and you swapped goalies, these two it's the rules. They should have to go head to head.
Appointment viewing. Yeah.
Yes. Someone will
All
chicken
right.
out.
College hockey time. Every Monday, I like to reveal my top 16. Why 16, John? Well, 16 teams make the NCAA tournament every year. That's how we do it. And this year's Frozen Four is in Las Vegas. And so let's unveil the very latest. Of course, now the college hockey season really screeches to a halt because of the Spengler Cup and the World Junior Tournament. A lot of teams aren't playing. As we talked to Guy Godowski on Friday, no games for 42 days for Penn State as they say goodbye to some players, especially Gavin McKenna. But let's unveil the very latest, BucciOT.com, top 16. And the Wisconsin Badgers, man, what a season they've had. What a start they've had in the Big Ten. Michigan slips number 2. The highest scoring team in the land is Michigan. North Dakota, another strong weekend from them as they just creep ahead of Minnesota, Duluth, Denver. Those teams all in the same conference, North Dakota, Minnesota, Duluth, and Denver, the NCHC. Dartmouth finally lost last night, Frank. They went to New Hampshire. They tied it late. So they have great goaltending and obviously a lot of character, and they tied the game late against UNH, but in the end, it wasn't quite enough. And yes, Holy Cross, Bill Riga, former assistant at Quinnipiac. They've been red hot the last couple of months, so that surprises some people. Boston College and James Hagan's starting to go. Dean Letourneau, the Bruins' first-round pick last year, who was supposed to play in the USHL. They brought him to BC, really struggled, but he's really come on this year. Big player, moves well, giant body, one of those 6'7" centers we have now in hockey. So, yeah, that's the very latest, the top 16. And right now, that's not going to change much now as the college hockey really slows down because of the World Junior, primarily the holiday break. It all comes together. So January will start to get cooking, and we start that stretch drive. It's all computer based in college hockey. There's no there's no like the college football playoff or things like that. It's math. 100% math decides the field of 16.
And it's your big brain that's doing all that math. These are the real rankings. These are the only ones that really matter. You can take those AP polls or coaches polls and throw them out.
Forget about it.
Right here, these are the top 16 that count.
Yeah, I put mine out first, so I know they just kind of see what I do, and just it saves them one thing to do. It's one less thing they got to do.
And
all right, let's bring in our
branded perfectly. Hold on, the BucciOT.com. Yep. Go get a toque. It's on sale.
Yeah, toque, college hockey, some BucciOT stuff. I appreciate it. Do it all myself. I'm a one-man band here. Let's bring in Craig Button. Talk about some hockey. TSN analyst, director of scouting, to join Frankly Hockey right now. There he is. Hello, Craig.
Listen, I've been blinded here. I've been blinded. Something is askew. Okay. You got Wisconsin at number 1 in your college poll, and you're wearing a Wolverines jersey. Like, what's going on here, Bucci? Like, seriously.
Well, Quinn Hughes.
Do you not have friends in Madison, Wisconsin? Like, if you're going to have the number 1 country, you better be wearing their jersey.
I don't have a Badger sweater. Tony Granato's been putting the heat on me with this Badger team. Every time I rank them 7, they should be 5. I'm 5, they should be 3. And him and Chelios, I did a game in Chicago. They came up and were assaulting me, verbally and physically assaulting me to put the Badgers higher. But Wisconsin is first in the Big Ten, 8-2. Michigan 7-3. It's close, but this is combination Quinn Hughes college hockey.
Right on.
And how shocked were you when you heard And how shocked were you, Craig, when you heard about the Quinn Hughes trade Friday? And then what do you think of it?
I wasn't shocked about hearing about a Quinn Hughes trade. I think what was more surprising was where he was going, because, there was very little, if any, talk about the Minnesota Wild, being in the conversation for Quinn Hughes. But as I've said many times, when a player like Quinn Hughes is available, 31 teams should be phoning. Okay, maybe we'll give Colorado a pass because they have Cale Makar. But if you don't have a player like Quinn Hughes, you should have been phoning Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin. And the bottom line is, Bill Guerin, he stepped up and he said, hey, I got to be fair. I got to do what I think is best for our team. It's a huge ad for the Minnesota Wild. Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin and the Canucks did what they had to do. I think, considering where the Canucks were at, they made a really good trade. And Billy's in it to win it. He's got a franchise goaltender in Wallstedt, in my view. He's got a franchise defenseman now in Hughes. He's got a franchise forward in Kaprizov. If you have those 3 elements in place, you got a chance to really go deep in the playoffs and contend. Billy did a nice job. He didn't do it. He did a great job.
So let's talk about this from the Canucks perspective. You said they did what they had to do. I framed it to start the show, Craig, as if they traded $1, they got back a 50-cent piece and 3 dimes. And you're hoping that Zeev Buium plays up to the level where, hey, maybe he can be that 80% of Quinn Hughes or whatever the number is. It's going to be hard to replicate a guy who's, played at a Hart Trophy type level in the NHL. That's a lot to ask of anyone. Do you think the Canucks got enough?
Yeah, I do. I think the bottom line, Frank, is when you face reality and stare it down, and it was staring Vancouver right in the face, you got to try to make the best possible deal you can. And nobody's going to argue or debate that Quinn Hughes is a superstar in the league, top 10 player in the league, amongst the top 5 defensemen in the league, top 2, top 3. There's no question about it. But what are the Vancouver Canucks going to do? Hang on, hope for something better? Rarely does something better come along. And I think that the Vancouver Canucks, I really believe they did a fantastic job in these 3 regards. Number 1, acknowledging reality. Number 2, opening up the market to a lot of different teams. And then number 3, getting a really good return. Because, yeah, you're getting young players and you're hopeful that they're going to turn out to whatever you think their potential is. But that was what Vancouver was faced with. And they didn't dither, and neither did Billy Guerin.
Yeah, it's like when Jack Eichel became available, because you were mentioned, Craig, every GM should have been calling. This is your chance. Guys like this don't become available. You need to swing from the heels, and I'm surprised. And sounds like Carolina might have, called, and the teams that normally call. Like, whatever it is, step up to the plate. These guys just don't become available. I understand they're worried about the extension, but you got them for 2 years. 2 years is a long time in the league for a GM, a coach, an organization. Who knows what's going to happen? And I'm just surprised, just like it reminds me of Eichel, that teams don't step up and just go full bore for a player like this. There aren't many of them.
Well, you nailed it. They're like, when do these players become available? Like, rarely.
Right, that's the thing.
When they do, to your point, you got to get in there. And you got 2 playoff runs. Are you serious about being a contender? Like, 2 playoff runs is to your point, is a long time.
It's a lot. Yeah.
And there's a lot of teams that are just hoping to get close to that. So when you give yourself a chance with a superstar difference maker that Quinn Hughes is, I don't think there's any question. And Billy he's not a guy that's going to sit idly by and say, well, we tried, we made calls. Geez, it's hard to make a trade. He just gets in there and does it. And, he was making meatballs at the same time. It's very interesting. There's Billy, Billy the chef cooking in his kitchen and cooking Minnesota Wild.
So, okay, let's talk about then some of the other teams that were in the mix that ultimately decided we can't put up a package that's going to beat that. And I think the team that everyone wonders about is the New Jersey Devils, trying to make that Hughes triumvirate work. And there was some reporting over the weekend that, they couldn't move out certain players due to contractual constraints and clauses. And I'm thinking to myself, it's never really stopped anyone before. Why is it that the excuses have kind of piled up here in a way of a New Jersey Devils team that's festered with Jack Hughes not playing? And yet the player that they covet to make all this work, they couldn't ultimately. They had the goods to do it, but didn't do it. What do you make of teams that have sort of loaded on the excuses since then?
Well, let me start with the first thing. How about Quinn Hughes' comment about Billy sacked up? His words, not mine. Billy sacked up, and I'm not going to forget it. Jim Rutherford was very clear in terms of saying that Quinn Hughes was involved in the process. He talked to him about potential teams that were there. I think that comment was really telling from Quinn Hughes, taken from where he went. Frank, nobody came close. Everybody loves to be the second runner-up. You know what? Either you're in it or you're not. And the New Jersey Devils weren't in it. And again, Frank, you and me have talked about this for years. All it is more excuse making. How hard it is. Oh my God, we couldn't do this. Good, make all your excuses. You're on the sidelines. You will remain on the sidelines. And Billy Guerin's the winner here. And they tried. Oh yeah, they tried. Oh yeah, okay, good. I'm glad you tried. we'll give you a trophy for trying really hard to get Quinn Hughes. Way to go.
The Oilers have a new goalie. What did you think of Jarry to Edmonton?
I think the time had come, John, for the Edmonton Oilers to make a change. There was so much noise around Stuart Skinner. The players continuously had to go out and talk about Stu Skinner as a great guy, and he is a great guy, and he's a great teammate, and we all know what he's done. But at some point in time, you just got to say, listen, this narrative around Stu Skinner and our goaltending has to change. Tristan Jarry, in my view, he's got better athletic ability than Stuart Skinner, handles the puck a little bit better. We can look at, Frank, I heard you talk a little bit earlier about, Tristan had a little bit of a fumble there and a stumble, and everybody says, oh, they could have had this guy on waivers. Yeah, the reason you could have had him on waivers is because he was struggling. And how many times do players on waivers get picked up when they're struggling? Rarely. And at that contract, it was going to be a hard one to add. So the Edmonton Oilers are looking at what he had done this year. Stan Bowman was very clear saying, really like what he's done this year. He's had a good year in Pittsburgh. Yeah, we know he's had some injury concerns, but all in all, when you're looking to change the narrative around your goaltending and change it specifically with a player, we're going to find out like if it's a upgrade, if it's a big upgrade, if it's lateral or whatnot. But I think the Oilers continuing on with Stu Skinner was a dead end. And I think that they recognize that, and now everybody can start fresh. Tristan Jarry starts fresh. The Edmonton Oilers start fresh. Stuart Skinner can go to the Pittsburgh Penguins, and he starts fresh. I think it's something that helps everybody with respect to where they find themselves with their short-term and long-term goals.
So you mentioned start fresh, and to me, I just wonder how big of a referendum this trade will be on Stan Bowman's tenure as general manager. I mean, this is a sizable deal for a team that had been knocking on the door of winning a Stanley Cup, haven't gotten across the finish line, and there's still kind of other facets to this deal. Trading Brett Kulak just to make the money work, like, my thought process is, could you have not gotten out ahead of that and made a different move, or hung on to Brett Kulak, or somehow convinced or spent more to have the Pittsburgh Penguins retain? Whatever the process necessary, if you really needed to trade Brett Kulak, like, should you have done it at the deadline and gotten more value for him, or do you just cut ties right now and do it? Like, there's all different ways to unpack this.
There is, Frank, and, depending on how you're trying to build your team. Listen, I think the referendum on Stan Bowman has been in since he took the job. He did not match the offer sheets to Broberg and Dylan Holloway. Massive, massive mistake. The contract extension to Trent Frederick. Losing Corey Perry. Now this situation here. Like, this isn't just a one-off referendum on Stan Bowman. And we all know what Connor McDavid has said. And the question is this team stronger today than it was when it lost to the Florida Panthers last year or even the year before? So Stan wasn't there 2 years ago, but since the time he took, and we can talk about going to the Stanley Cup final, great. I think the referendum's in big time on Stan, and it should be.
Mm-hmm. And looks like they're calling up Quinn Hudson. He's had a great run at the American League, and that's look like for now, that's what they're going to go. They're going to go that route, right? Isaac Howard, whoever it is, try to find a hot young guy, I guess, during the regular season, maybe, and then figure out the deadline, what we need to do. And one of those things they need to do is probably go try to find another Brett Kulak when it's all said and done. But also for now, looks like they're going to try to work on some of these young guys. Maybe one will stick, or do you think in the end they'll make one more move at the deadline?
Well, I think they need to make more moves. But I'm going to go back. You wouldn't have to be making these moves if you had Broberg and you had Holloway. It was a disastrous decision by Stan Bowman and the Edmonton Oilers. So, we're going to have this guy, we're going to have this guy, we're going to have this guy, we're going to have that guy. Well, bottom line, you had the two guys you needed. And now you're trying to look for other help. Listen, I mean, everybody thinks they had a couple of games where the Oilers are back. Then they lose to Buffalo at home. They win a game against the Detroit Red Wings because Connor McDavid is Connor McDavid. They didn't outplay the Red Wings that night. Obliterate the Toronto Maple Leafs. Then they go into Montreal, and if it wasn't for Calvin Pickard, they would have lost that game 10-1. It wasn't even close, that game on Sunday night. So all the Oilers are back. No, they're not. They're a flawed team. that are bailed out not night after night, but so many nights by 97 and 29. They're so great that they find a way to help a flawed team, a weaker team, win games. So do I think they got to go make some significant moves? Yeah. And I love Quinn Hudson. I mean, who doesn't love the Hudson boys? I love them. But at the same time, it's not going to just be one guy. And good for Quinn to play so well in the American Hockey League, get his call up. And, why didn't they call him up and play him last night in Montreal? That's when you do it. Frank, back to the Skinner Jarry, mandate.
Yeah, the appointment viewing. The other part of this, Spencer Stastny coming over from Nashville, two parts. One, can he be a difference maker for Edmonton? And two, if he can be, what exactly were the Nashville Predators doing and trading him for a third?
Yeah, when I saw that, I mean, Spencer's a really good skating defenseman. He gets to pucks real quick. And, one of the things you have to be able to do in this league is you have to be able to get to a puck as a defenseman. You got to be able to move it either with your legs or with your hands. And I think Spencer does a really nice job of that. I think he's a bottom pair defenseman all day long. But you need good bottom pair defensemen. And how he fits for the Edmonton Oilers, I think, is a good fit. I think we know that he's been very open and honest about his mental health challenges. He feels like he's in a really good place now. But that type of player in that spot, I think, is a really good, strong addition. Well, really good addition in that spot for the Edmonton Oilers. Helping your offense isn't just about points. Helping your offense is making sure you get out of your own zone quick and not spending time in there. The Nashville Predators, when I saw it, I'm thinking they got to be working on other things here. They're a team that has struggled this year. And I looked at it and said, I'm going to wait and hold off here a little bit to see if there's anything else that might be, percolating within the Nashville Predators organization. Because I think that everybody's looking at them to see what they can do to make some changes to try to change their fortunes.
And then one more, Craig, then we'll get you out of here. Injuries, obviously, a part of this season. Looks like Dylan Holloway is going to miss 6 weeks. Patrick Kane's going to miss a couple games. We talked about Connor Bedard as well. Do you think Bedard's injury at this point, with his Olympic chances, they might have been slightly remote? It sounds like they're more in on Celebrini than Bedard. Do you think this will just about, at this point, that's not going to happen now on the Olympic team for him?
Well, I think that, with the injuries, Hockey Canada in this case will get medical updates, try to understand, what the recovery period is, and then they're going to want to. I mean, they're going to name players, and if they name Bedard and they feel confident about naming Bedard, they know that if he can't play, they can replace him. And I think there'll be other players that will be that I shouldn't say. I don't want to say that, but. To think that there won't be injuries to other players already named to the team, I think would be a little bit hopeful, because I don't think that'll happen. So if Connor Bedard, in my view, has done so much to this point in the season to earn a spot on the team, and I think that Hockey Canada has the luxury of saying, well, if he's not up to par, we can replace him because of the injury. So, I don't think it precludes him from being on the team, named to the team, John. But we'll see how he comes back and how he looks once he gets back there.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us, as always, Craig. Appreciate you. Great seeing you, and we'll see you again next week.
Yeah, thanks, you guys.
Craig Button, the man of the hour, the man with the power. Let's ask the insider now. Frank, what's up with Phillip Danault? Plain and
interesting
simple.
Situation. So Phillip Danault did not travel to Dallas with the LA Kings on Sunday. By the way, Quinton Byfield did not as well. And the team is saying that both players are sick. So Phillip Danault also missed Saturday's game with an illness. But my spidey senses are tingling here. There's a guy that obviously his name has been through the trade rumor mill in recent days and weeks. I think as this December 19th holiday roster freeze is looming, I'm not saying he's not sick. I'm just saying my eyebrow is up with this one.
2 more years on his deal, $5.5 million this year and next. Obviously, Kenny Holland, the new GM in LA, still trying to make his move in the trade market after he was, somewhat a couple of moves in the offseason via free agency. And so we'll have to keep an eye on Phillip Danault and the Los Angeles Kings. All right, hashtag hockey. Speaking of the Kings, there you go, kid.
Got to do it. I mean,
The Kings
check out
hit
this
the
video.
6-7 apparently.
Yeah, let's go. You know what I was thinking of here is every player on the ice, and my kids love this. I showed this to them. They were rolling in my car when I showed them.
You couldn't do anything more as a hockey team to impress the kids.
No, but that's a lot of work for an equipment guy. Think of all the fingers that were just aching, like at the Green Acres nursing home where where Happy Gilmore's grandmom was. I mean, my fingers hurt. That's a lot of sewing for these guys. That to put all these 6-7s and nameplates on just for that's real commitment to the bit.
It is, but just like Billy Guerin, if you're going to make meatballs, make big meatballs. You got to have big meatballs to make a trade. You got to, you got to have big meatballs to make a trade, Frank, and you got to have big meatballs to pull something like that off. And if you're trying to connect with the kids, you can't do anything else right now than that. That's it. I
mean, it's pretty elite. I mean, I've been urging the Philadelphia 76ers just for one night to just change the numbers around and call them the 67ers.
Look at you. Perfect. Perfect. You got to speculate to accumulate in life. And boy, but this has turned to a Los Angeles Kings streamcast right now. The LA Kings also involved, but so are the Dallas Stars.
The Dallas Stars. Yeah.
The history of their logos throughout the years. What do you think?
Including that ill-shaped whatever that thing is over your right shoulder. That was an interesting logo the Stars had at one point on that third jersey. Yes. I've been getting crushed of late on the Frank's bets, these odds courtesy of our friends at BetMGM, but I'm taking the Stars on the puck line tonight. The Stars have been rolling. I know they lost a couple in a row for the first time in more than a month. Seems like a perfect night to get right. And as mentioned, the Kings are hurting down the middle, literally. No Danault, no Quinton Byfield, not with the Kings in Dallas. That leaves a lot of heavy lifting to Anze Kopitar. And with that, I'm going to take the Stars on the puck line at a juicy plus 170. Pray, hope, wish bet on the empty netter.
Dallas has dropped their last two. They've been actually a better road team this year, the Stars, than home. They're 11-2-4 on the road, 10-5-1 at home, but obviously 7-2-1 their last 10. Very solid. They're right there with Minnesota, Colorado right now. It's like a horse race, and just the lead really isn't changing the last week and a half because they're all playing. They all have 7 wins in their last 10 games. Dallas right now 6 points behind Colorado, and Colorado does have a game in hand. It's going to take Dallas, I think, Frank, to get one of those 8-9 game win streaks. But like I said, all it takes is one little injury for Colorado, and Dallas could be right there. But as we're looking now, we're going to have a first round matchup of either Minnesota versus Dallas or Minnesota versus Colorado.
Sign me up.
Juicy hand rubbing matchup in the first round of the but exactly. And people talk about changing the playoff format. The 4 or 5 matchups were always big time matchups as well. You go 4 or 5, it's going to be just as big.
Yeah,
a
lot of people.
The last word. The last word. Frank, you take it from here. This is your last word. Not ever. You'll be back, but yeah.
Yeah, we had a goalie goal over the weekend, which kind of got lost in a million different things happening. And I just wanted to take a second. Also, a bit of news here connected because Laurent Brossoit is going on waivers today, but it has been an incredible road back for Laurent Brossoit, who scored a goalie goal playing for Rockford on Friday night. Remember, he signed his contract July 1st, 2024 with the Chicago Blackhawks. He has yet to play a single game under this contract in the NHL. He had hip surgery, knee surgery, just all these things that have been connected to his game. Finally, a couple weeks ago, works his way back into a conditioning stint with the Rockford Ice Hogs. And to get this goal, I just think that's karma. That is doing all the right things and getting rewarded for it. A special moment for him, and what's been a very challenging couple years. He's a really well-respected guy. People love spending time around him, but to this point in time, there hasn't been enough interest on the trade market. So today that conditioning stint is up. The Hawks are
Right.
sticking in net with Spencer Knight and Arvid Soderblom. And so Laurent Brossoit, the odd man out, going on waivers today, but wanted to celebrate him and all the hard work that he's done working his way back, and to get rewarded with that goalie goal. Pretty special.
Yeah, back when Vegas was going on their Stanley Cup run, I did a game in Edmonton when they were playing the Oilers. They would go on to beat the Oilers, and Brossoit was their guy, and that's when, he got injured, and they brought in Adin Hill. It's like, oh boy, Vegas is done. And of course, they go on to win the Stanley Cup with Adin Hill. So what does this mean for Brossoit? You said put on the waivers. What do you think his future is now?
Well, we know that there's a couple teams that have been unhappy with their goaltending. Is there a team out there that has cap space that could absorb his $3+ million to finish out this season? I mean, there's a couple that I could think of that they'd be way worse off. It's $3.3 million cap hit, but obviously the Hawks have been paying him all year to this point, so it's prorated based off of that. Like, I'm looking at it going, I don't know, Anaheim Ducks, $11.7 million in cap space. They're paying a lot to Husso and Mrazek, but both those guys have been well into the 800s. Husso, for instance, is at 888. He's been a little better than Mrazek, who's been hurt. Could one of those teams use a solid backup, a solid number two to stick behind a guy that they believe is a clear-cut starter? I think a lot of teams could do worse than Brossoit. Are you willing to make the financial commitment? So we'll see in 24 hours.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that. Again, he's a UFA after this year. You just owe him that salary for this year, but then again, he is free after this year. We'll see what happens. He just wants to come back one more time, and then that's enough, or he's just going to go keep going. And because a lot of guys wouldn't have that mental fortitude to keep going after all of these injuries. We began the show with Quinn Hughes, and just a reminder, he plays next tomorrow night. Minnesota's home against the Washington Capitals and Alex Ovechkin. And man, he's starting to, that's what I love about these trades, Frank. You make a trade for a guy like that, the games become kind of appointment viewing. You want to see how he does and what kind of electricity him and Kaprizov and Boldy and even Faber, his partner. When you think about the best pairs in the NHL, Makar, Taves,
instantly,
and then you go Faber, Hughes. I mean, that might be the next best one.
It might be the next U.S. Olympic pair.
Look at that. Just like they do with the Canadian Makar and Taves, right? They put them together because they play together. And you wonder after, Billy Guerin, who's also involved with that, he's going to be able to watch Faber and Hughes play for a good, month and a half, right about a month and a week or so, to see if that pair is one that will just seamlessly play in Milan.
Pretty special.
Right. Any final words? Any last-minute shopping? Have you taken your wife's credit card away from her yet? She's on a heater, I hear. That's what my sources tell me. I might tweet this out.
Smoking
Frank's
hot.
wife has bought 13 Yankee candles in the last hour.
Yeah, no good. We're going to need to curtail that.
All right. Left wing lock coming soon to a credit card near you. That's Frank, quite frankly. I'm John Buccigross. Thanks always for watching Frankly Hockey. We'll see you tomorrow.